Hello, today we are going to do some fireworks coasters, and I'm doing these again because I want to make some coasters for my living room. We are going to be using, Craft Resin. It's a 1-to-1 resin. I love it because it's very clear and very low bubbles, which is great when you're working for stuff like this where you have a bloom or fireworks. If you have too many bubbles, your white may get bubbles in it. It just doesn't look great. So I recommend Craft Resin. The one thing about Craft Resin, before we start these, because it is a low viscosity resin, you want it to heat to 38 degrees Celsius. So that's where we're starting from. I'm going to start filling my molds. Remember to put a little bit in your molds and let it walk to the sides. You don't want to fill up your molds a bunch because white has a tendency to sink because it's heavier. All right, so I'm just filling my molds. While I let those work for a little bit and spread, I'm going to go ahead and put 1 ounce of resin in my white cup. And the other thing different I'm going to do today, last time I used Bloom, this time we're going to use Castin'Craft opaque pigment concentrate. We're going to give that a try and see how it works. I just ordered these molds, and sometimes I get lucky and they're perfect, but one time I ordered a set and they were uneven. So this is going to also test the molds. All right, while we're mixing our white, I'm going to go ahead and let this spread some more. What I generally do, and I think this will probably be the same concept, is do 5 drops of this. And then see what it looks like. Remember, we generally want a milky sort of white. So I'm going to give it a stir. Mix it in really well. You don't want it to be streaky. Normally I put something shimmery in the white, but today I'm not going to, just because I'm still working with blooms, still trying to figure them out, and I don't want to mess with any of my ratios. All right, so that was 5 drops, 1 ounce of resin. And oh, I should probably show you what I think looks good. And that is what it looks like. All right. So I'm still watching it spread a little. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little nudge. It is, because I let it warm to 38, it is very thick. And sometimes that makes it more difficult to spread in the molds on its own. And you might have to do a little shoving. We just don't want to go and pour more resin in and make it too deep. All right, so looks like it's all where we need it to be. All right, the next thing I'm gonna do are my inks, and as you know, I use a lot of Ranger inks. So today we're working with Coral, Wild Plum, and Stream. And I'm gonna start with the coral in the center. And as you know, my centers are not always the center. That's okay. Next, well, actually, let's do the stream next, because I sort of want it to have a leaf effect. So I think I'm going to do that, the stream in all the tips, the furthest out points. Stream is my favorite color when I can't decide between blue or green. It's a nice color that meets in the middle. It's more like a teal, maybe. I know sometimes when I'm filming this, you can't really get a good idea of what the colors are that I'm using. All right. And the next one I'm going to use is the plum. I have half of my table is on another project I'm working on, so I'm trying to do it in a very small area today. All right, so now my plum, I think I'm just going to add where I don't have any color. They're spreading very well. I was afraid that they wouldn't because the thicker your resin gets, the inks with the alcohol inks with the higher ink content sometimes don't spread as well. Sometimes you have to go with a higher alcohol ratio to get them to spread, but this looks like it's doing a great job. So let me give my white another stir. Just make sure it's how I like it. I always second guess myself. Now, I put a piping bag in one of my cups. I will warn you, I just got these piping bags off of Temu and they tend to split sometimes. So I think I'm gonna go back to ordering the 8-inch bags from Amazon. Just gonna slowly pour it in my cup. If I was worried about bubbles, I might pour it down the side of my piping bag. But like I said, we're using Craft Resin and it's a great resin and not a lot of bubbles. Pop it out of my cup. Straighten it, push it down if needed. And then give it a really good tie so it doesn't come back, or twist so it doesn't come back into your hand. If you have smaller hands like I do, sometimes you could cut the extra bag off. Hopefully more graceful than I did that. All right, and then you want to cut a very small tip. I don't know if you could see that. Sometimes I make it so you could see it, sometimes not. All right, and now I'm going to start my piping. I think I'm still going to start in the center and pipe outwards. I'm going to try to, after I do my first circle, pipe the next row in between, the next row in between, because I don't want the dots to line up. So I'm going to do my first one. Can you see that? And then I'm gonna slowly circle. And they're gonna drop down, which is why I sort of stepped back so you could see it. In between row. And once they get spread out too far, then I'll put 2 dots in between. This one doesn't look like I have one in the center, so I'm gonna go back and put that. All right, you see what I'm doing here? And now you could speed it up if you'd like. You don't have to watch me slowly piping a bunch of dots. All right, they are done. Almost ran out of some over there. So maybe I need to make a little over an ounce of white for these 4 coasters. But we'll come back when we are ready to apply a back.